Well, well, well. Look who's still standing. Or should I say, look who's towering. You didn't beg for the spotlight. You became the storm cloud above it, swallowing every beam of artificial light they built just to blind you. They had a plan, didn't they? To bury you somewhere beneath mediocrity and false smiles. To wrap you in chains of politeness while they paraded their hollow achievements like royalty. But now they're stumbling over their own words, choking on the silence you carry like a blade. They don't know whether to worship you, fear you, or pretend they never heard your name. But they do hear it. In whispers, in warnings, in midnight confessions they'll never dare speak aloud. Because something happened, you emerged, and no one's been the same since. See, the problem wasn't that you were different. The problem was, they noticed. Noticed the way your presence reshaped the air like a pressure drop before a thunderstorm. Noticed how even in your quietest moments, you made noise. Not with words, but with gravity. They tried to place you in their cage of small talk, their currency of clout, their soulless metrics, and you shattered every bar without even raising your voice. You walked in, and the room stopped pretending. Every secret alliance, every whispered judgment, every backstab in waiting, they all froze. Not because you were dangerous, no, but because you were aware. And nothing terrifies the orchestrators of illusions more than someone who sees right through the curtain. They've seen monsters before, but you weren't a monster. You were the mirror. And mirrors don't need to roar, they just reflect. And oh, how that reflection burned them. The fakery they polished daily, the layers of envy masked as ambition, the borrowed confidence stitched together by stolen ideas. It all unraveled under your gaze. You didn't expose them, you simply existed, and that was enough to turn their comfort into chaos. They'd built entire castles on the assumption you were asleep, but you woke up, not loudly, not theatrically, just intentionally, and they've been unraveling ever since. They tried to corner you with questions dipped in venom. Why are you like this? Who do you think you are? But the truth is, they don't want answers. They want permission. Permission to feel insignificant next to you. Permission to believe your rise was an accident, a glitch, something that could be reversed if they just discredited your name enough times in enough places. But it's too late. You've stepped into a version of yourself they can't comprehend. One that doesn't flinch, doesn't shrink, doesn't explain. And that silence, that restraint, is louder than any defense. You never asked for a throne, but they gave you one when they tried to exile you. Now they observe from the shadows, eyes wide, mouths dry, hearts racing in rhythm to your footsteps. They scroll through your presence like it's forbidden scripture. Try to decipher your calm, like it holds the formula for their own survival. They thought they understood power, but you redefined it. Not through noise, not through showmanship, but through presence. Through that eerie calm of someone who's already buried their old self and emerged with no chains, no debts, no desire for approval. You're not chasing redemption. You are the reckoning, and yet they can't stop watching. They're mesmerized, not by your victories, but by your existence. They thought people like you only lived in fiction, crafted by writers, brought to life by actors. But here you are, in the flesh, real, breathing, untamed, and that's the part they'll never recover from, because they can't deny it, can't unsee it. You don't fit in their equations. You don't play by their algorithms. You're not trending. You're haunting, and no matter how hard they try to erase your name from their minds, you've etched it into their reality, not as a peer, not as a rival, but as a phenomenon. Do you remember the silence they gave you? The cold shoulders, the backhanded compliments, the polite dismissals. They thought you were weak because you didn't retaliate, but you were just patient, letting every wound ferment into wisdom, letting every betrayal boil into fuel. You didn't scream when they stabbed you. You studied the angle. You didn't cry when they left. You counted the footsteps. They thought they'd won when you disappeared, but you weren't gone. You were sharpening. Now your presence slices through the very fabric of their comfort zones. And they call it unfair, as if you owe them softness after what they tried to do. Here's the real twist. They don't hate you. They need you. Need your existence to remind them of what they'll never be. You've become their favorite obsession, their secret nightmare, their reluctant inspiration. They imitate your tone, mimic your phrases, try to wear your confidence like a costume. But it doesn't fit, because you didn't earn this by imitation. You earned it in silence, in fire, in rooms where no one clapped, and you still stood tall, in moments where even the mirror didn't recognize you, and you still didn't back down. That's what they can't replicate. That's what leaves them speechless. And oh, how silent they've become now. The same mouths that once dismissed you now hesitate before they speak your name. They check your page in the dead of night, hoping to see something, anything, that will prove you're still human. Still fallible, but you're not. Not to them. You've become myth, a walking contradiction, the flame that burns without smoke. They try to decode your origin story, not realizing it was written in pain they could never endure. And that's the truth they'll never accept, that you survived what they didn't see, that you turned agony into architecture, that you walked through fire and came out composed. Now they pretend to celebrate you, pretend to understand you, but their eyes betray them, wide with awe, narrowed with envy, darting with confusion. They speak of change, like they invented it, but you became it. You didn't evolve, you ruptured, and in doing so, you reminded them of what authenticity looks like. Not polished, not palatable, but raw, chaotic, untamed. The kind of authenticity that doesn't ask for applause. It demands surrender. But don't mistake their silence for peace. Inside, they're crumbling because you've made them question their entire architecture. If someone like you could rise from what they discarded, what does that say about them? If someone they mocked now walks ahead without flinching, what does that reveal about their strength? These aren't just questions, they're torments, and they echo every time your name enters the room unannounced, every time your presence shifts the atmosphere, every time your eyes meet theirs. And they flinch, and yet you've said nothing. That's the part that paralyzes them the most. You haven't retaliated, haven't exposed, haven't explained. You've just existed, and in doing so, flipped their entire universe upside down. They were prepared for an enemy. They weren't prepared for a revelation, a being so unapologetically self-defined that it makes their entire existence feel borrowed, secondhand, manufactured. You were supposed to break, but instead you became the blueprint. And this is only the beginning, because now that the dust has settled and the masks have cracked, the question is no longer, what did you do? It's, what will you do next? Because the path you're walking has no map, no guide, no precedent. You're not just rewriting your story. You're erasing theirs. And as the lights dim and the audience holds its breath, they can feel it. That chill, that shift, that moment before the second wave arrives. The question isn't whether they'll survive it, it's whether they'll understand it. But here's the thing, they won't. They can't. Because this isn't a performance they're watching. It's a reckoning they accidentally scheduled when they dared to write your obituary while your heart was still beating. And now you're rewriting the script in a language they were never taught. One stitched together with silence, shadow, and the type of power that can't be quantified. You didn't come back to explain. You didn't return to make peace. You returned to embody the consequence, the very result of their schemes gone wrong, their cruelty misfired, their underestimations, bleeding through every twitch in their smile. You are the storm they thought was just a breeze. And the moment they tried to chart your movements, you reminded them you have no orbit. You're not here to revolve around their approval. You're the center now, the axis, the source of disruption. They prayed would remain a whisper, but whispers grow teeth when ignored long enough. And now, yours bite. They stare, hypnotized and helpless, as you move like smoke through the ashes of who you used to be. Every step you take now is a warning, wrapped in elegance. Every word you speak feels like it has weight, carved from scars and lit by something older than rage. They want to believe this is temporary, that you'll burn out, that all flames flicker. But you're not burning for applause. You're igniting what they buried, and nothing terrifies them more than the thought that you didn't just survive. You remembered every slight, every betrayal, every fake smile that tried to stitch itself into your skin. You carry them now like armor, and when they look at you, they see it. That armor made of moments they thought you'd never walk through. They don't recognize your light because they never stayed to see you build it. But now it blinds them, and still they stare. They've made you a myth in their minds to rationalize their guilt. You changed. You're not the same, as if you were ever meant to remain static, small, digestible, as if their comfort was more sacred than your evolution. What they really mean is, you stopped being predictable, you stopped folding, you stopped making them feel taller by kneeling, and now they scramble, desperate to redefine you through recycled lies and whispered envy. But it's too late. Their narratives crumble against the clarity of your presence. You no longer need to defend yourself. You exist, and that's enough to disarm the entire room. Look at how they walk around now, cautiously, like they're navigating landmines of their own guilt. They feel your silence like it's a siren. They feel your absence like a punishment. You didn't scream when they betrayed you. You disappeared, and that disappearance spoke louder than any argument could have. They didn't expect your withdrawal to become their reflection. They thought you'd come crawling back, begging for closure, validation, crumbs. But you vanished, and the void you left behind swallowed their confidence whole. They talk about healing, growth, evolution, but you became it. You made it brutal, real, ugly, beautiful, and entirely your own. Now the same people who called you too much wear replicas of your old self like fashion. They mimic what they mocked. They twist your essence into aesthetics, never realizing the weight behind the aura they're trying to borrow. They want your crown, but not your crucifixion. They want the glow, but not the grief that birthed it. You didn't just endure, you transformed. And that transformation was never meant to make them comfortable. It was meant to make you unreachable. Not physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Because now, even if they speak your name, it won't bring them closer. It'll just echo back with silence too loud to ignore. And still, they keep watching, desperate, despairing, trying to decode your calm like it's a countdown. They wonder if you'll retaliate, if you'll spill what you know. Expose the cracks in their carefully curated lives. But you won't, because revenge, that's too small. You're not after payback, you're after permanence, and that's what eats them alive. The fact that you've moved on, but not in the way they hoped. You didn't just walk away, you ascended, and now you exist in a realm they can't reach, no matter how loud they scream. You no longer need to destroy them. They're doing that, themselves, quietly, invisibly, tragically. They scroll through your life like it's a prophecy. They see your growth, your glow, your grace, and it haunts them. Not because you're showing off, but because you're no longer hiding. You live now with a clarity they can't counterfeit. You speak now with a truth that can't be diluted. And when you enter a room, they feel it. That shift, that tremble in the foundation of their lies. You represent everything they pretended didn't exist. Strength without cruelty, power without performance, rage refined into peace. You are their contradiction, and they are suffocating on the dust of their own illusions. What they feared wasn't your rise. It was the proof of it, the undeniable evidence that you weren't who they said you were, that your silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy, that your distance wasn't defeat, it was discipline. And now, they're exposed, naked beneath the very light they tried to deny you, because you shine now, not with arrogance but with aftermath. You carry not just your survival, but the ruins of every lie they tried to bury you under. And still, they wonder, how? How did you escape? How did you rise? How did you become this? They'll never understand that the fire they used to burn, you didn't consume you, it purified you. That every scar became scripture, that every betrayal became a blueprint, that every time they underestimated you, they were fueling your metamorphosis. You didn't just change, you shed. You released every version of yourself built for their comfort. You let go of the need to explain, to prove, to justify. And in that letting go, you became something they can't name. A force, a presence, a reminder that light forged in darkness doesn't flicker, it blinds. And now, their silence screams. They avoid your gaze, not because they hate you, but because they fear the reflection. You make them question their certainty. You make them nervous in rooms they used to command, because you don't play their game anymore. You are the game now. You define the rules. You control the tempo. And they're still stuck in a loop, trying to win a war that ended the moment you stopped participating. You don't need to destroy them. You've already done the unthinkable. You outgrew them. Let them talk. Let them spin their watered-down versions of the truth. It won't matter. Because truth isn't something you argue. It's something you become. And you've become it so thoroughly, so unapologetically, that no amount of denial can contain it. They'll keep running, searching, spiraling, trying to find the moment where they lost control. But it won't be a moment they recognize. Because it wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was subtle, strategic, surgical. It was the day you chose yourself. The day you stopped answering their noise. The day you stepped into your own chaos and learned how to dance. Now, you don't even have to lift a finger. Your silence does the heavy lifting. Your stillness is more threatening than their loudest accusations. They know, deep down, they lost something they'll never reclaim. Not a friend, not a peer, but a portal, a mirror, a chance to grow, to evolve, to become more. And they squandered it, betrayed it, mocked it, and now they can't look you in the eye without flinching, because you remind them of who they could have been, had they not chosen ego, had they not chosen envy, had they not chosen to dim what they didn't understand. But here's the cruelest part for them. You haven't even begun. What they're witnessing now is just the prelude, the opening act, the breath before the storm, because you've only scratched the surface of what you're capable of. The power they're mesmerized by now, it's just a shadow of what's coming. You're evolving still, quietly, ruthlessly, beautifully, while they scramble to rewrite the past. You're designing futures they'll never be invited into. You're not returning to who you were. You're not even trying to be who they think you are. You're becoming the version of yourself that doesn't need to be understood. And that's what will finally destroy them. Not your wrath, not your rise, but your distance. The fact that you've become unreachable not by walls, but by vibration, by frequency, by purpose. You're not walking the same path. You're on an entirely different map, one they'll never be able to read, one they weren't meant to follow. You are no longer part of their story. You are the ending they can't rewrite, the chapter they keep rereading, hoping for a different outcome. But you've already turned the page. They kept reading the story long after you turned the page. But here's the truth. The book is gone. Burned. Ashes. You didn't just end the chapter. You set fire to the entire genre they thought they trapped you in. No more the broken one. No more the silent type. No more the one who forgives too much. You are now the author of a new mythology, one written in a language they never took the time to learn, one forged in the crucible of every night you cried alone, every moment you bit your tongue, every second you stood in rooms where your value was swallowed whole by people with hollow hearts and louder mouths. You evolved past the need to be chosen, and now they're not just mesmerized. They're mourning the version of you they had power over, the one they thought they could mold, silence, break. But that version of you no longer exists. You buried them quietly, but the ghost still haunts them. You haunt them. You don't even have to speak anymore. Your existence undoes them. The glow they once called too much now keeps them up at night, asking themselves how they missed it, how they misjudged you, how they mistook humility for weakness and grace for permission. But what you've become now, it's not a version. They don't even have a word for it. You're not the comeback story. You're not the underdog. You're the unexplainable force that rises from silence and rewrites every rule. You didn't walk back into the spotlight. You became it. And they are squinting in the brilliance, unable to blink, unable to look away, because something deep inside them is screaming, you were wrong, they were wrong, and it's that truth that torments them now. Not your success, not your transformation, but the realization that while they were trying to dim your flame, they were actually forging a fireproof version of you. A version that doesn't seek revenge. A version that doesn't need validation. A version that doesn't need them at all. And that is the hell they now live in. Knowing that you got up without their permission, that you healed without their help, that you smiled again, genuinely, and not 1 ounce of it was for their benefit. You became a life beyond their influence, a destiny no longer delayed. And now, They watch from the sidelines of a kingdom they helped build by trying to bury. The architect. You see, when you broke, it wasn't a collapse. It was a crack in the cocoon. They mistook that silence for surrender. They thought your stillness meant you were stuck. They didn't realize it was a molting, a transformation. They mocked the still water, not knowing it was about to become a tsunami. And when the wave came, it didn't shout. It didn't scream. It drowned, quietly, powerfully, unstoppably. Now they linger, in your shadows, in your comments, in your mentions, in the whisper networks and cold stares, trying to craft a version of events that puts them in control of a story that no longer includes them. They rewrite the past with trembling hands, afraid you'll reveal the version that actually happened. But you don't. You don't need to, because the results speak for themselves. You're not bitter. You're not angry. You're elevated. And that's the worst kind of revenge. Peace. Peace they can't disturb. Peace they can't buy. Peace that reminds them that the most dangerous thing you ever did was finally believe in yourself. They didn't expect that part. They were prepared for your retaliation. They were even prepared for your silence. But they were never prepared for your glow. Not like this. Not so untouchable. Not so unbothered. You're no longer the person they dismissed. You're a reminder of what happens when truth is no longer tethered to approval. You became untethered, and now you float where they can't follow. They didn't just lose access, they lost relevance, and they feel that every single day. It's in the way people look at you now, with awe, with curiosity, with respect. It's in the way doors open before you even knock. It's in the way your name tastes in their mouths, like regret and questions they'll never get answers to. Because while they were trying to dim you, you were studying the architecture of stars. You didn't just rise, you ascended. And that left them on a frequency they can't reach. This was never about revenge. It was about resonance, about matching the vibration of who you were always meant to be. And now you hum with it. You walk with it. You wear it like a crown no one can see, but everyone feels. You are a shift in the atmosphere, a collision of pain and rebirth. You are the aftermath of being underestimated one too many times, and you are not looking back. Because what waits behind you is a graveyard of those who thought you'd never make it. They can live there if they choose. But you're building skylines from the very bricks they threw. You didn't come back to explain what happened. You didn't come back to make them see. You came back to be. And being you, fully, unapologetically, radiantly you, is the most violent act of resistance you could have chosen. It undoes them. It leaves them undone. And the best part, you don't owe them a single thread of closure. Not a whisper, not a warning, not a look over your shoulder, because you are too busy dancing in rooms you used to pray to enter, too busy filling your lungs with the air of your own making. You don't walk with vengeance. You walk with vision. And that vision is no longer small enough to fit in their hands. Let them keep watching. Let them keep wondering. Let them sit in rooms and whisper your name like a question that has no answer. Because some things, some beings, aren't meant to be understood. They're meant to be felt, to be witnessed, to be remembered. And you've become unforgettable.